What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's all about Dunwoody, Georgia. My name is Matt Weber. Show's brought to you by Dr. Brett Friedman with Village Orthodontics. And today, we normally talk about Dunwoody, but today we are going to talk about the city of Doraville, which I am so close to, and I know very little about until just recently. I'm a real estate agent, and so I had a listing in Doraville. I've had a couple of buyers that have been looking in Doraville. Had one that closed a couple months ago, so I've learned a little bit about Doraville in that time. But so today we're going to go deep. We're going to dive deep with three people who grew up in Doraville and are now doing all kinds of stuff to raise awareness for Doraville. We've got a movie coming out. We've got a 5K. And yeah, I guess let's start with just maybe introducing yourselves and kind of giving a quick introduction and how this has all come about. And then we'll dive a little deeper into, I definitely want to talk about the 5K at the assembly. So yeah, let's start with you, Caroline.
Well, I'm Caroline Camick. I was raised in Doraville as Caroline Walker. My mother still lives in Doraville, and I had the opportunity to teach at the school that we graduated from. We graduated from Sequoia, and I'm 84, class of 84. And I'll let the other girls introduce themselves and then tell you a little bit about how this all started.
Okay.
And I'm Lisa Edmondson, class of 86. I got onto this project through Caroline. She has been working on it for probably a couple of years now. And she mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, hey, I kind of have some experience in that, that realm. So that's kind of how I got involved. And now it's just become an obsession. But it's all ode to Doraville, all the time, basically, these days.
Awesome. How about you, Karen?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Karen Ketchum, maiden name Caskey, for those of you who knew me back then. I'm the baby of the group, so I'm class of 87. And I kind of inserted myself because I saw who was working on it. And I'm like, those are all really creative people. And I'm a project manager by trade, very detailed, very admin-like. I said, if you need help with structure, I'm your gal. So I'm kind of acting as the production manager.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we said, oh, yeah, we need help.
Yeah.
So that made perfect sense.
Okay,
well, go ahead, Matthew.
No, that's fine. How did you get started?
So Lisa and I are considered the directors. Lisa's also writing it, and she's very much our creative aspect. And I tend to be more the one that connects people because I've stayed quite connected, especially being able to have graduated from there. But just by my nature, I've always been very drawn to being brought up in Doraville. There's something very nostalgic about it. There's something very moving about it, as much as it's changed, and it's a completely different, city from when we grew up as far as the cultural makeup. But what we have found, and we don't really understand why, other than the fact that we were just called to make this film because of our unique nature of being very connected and like a family. Anybody that went to Sequoia or even went to Peachtree, sometimes even some Shambling and Cross Keys people, you immediately feel like family, but especially with Sequoia. And we've never understood really why. And we think it might be because it was just such a simple town and it was so community oriented. It's only really the only activity you had to do was drive up and down Buford Highway. But no one really had any money. So we were all on the same level. And we very much feel like that. So a good buddy of mine that I grew up with, Danny Howron, I will say his name because this is really his idea. He brought it up to me that he thought we ought to have a movie about it because we have a lot of cool stories that come out of it. Atlanta Rhythm Section is our biggest claim to fame. They wrote a song called Doraville. They had a studio in Doraville that big names also recorded in, including Leonard Skinnard, 38 Special, Sweet Home Alabama was recorded there.
Really?
And so we also have Chris Holcomb, that is our 11 Alive meteorologist, chief meteorologist. And he grew up with us, grew up at Doraville Baptist. A lot of us went to Doraville Baptist, not myself, but a big part of our little fundraising team. We hope to have Chris be a narrator on our film. And basically, we just feel like our story is everyone's story. it was a pre-digital age where everyone knew each other, took care of each other, had freedom to let your kids roam all over the town and not even know where they were.
Yeah.
In and out of each other's homes, and it was Doraville was basically brought on the map because of General Motors,
Yeah.
and that's where everyone's a huge percentage of people's parents worked, fathers especially,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's a completely different group of different nationalities, and but yet they have great love for that town, and um, and we've just continued to have such a strong community in Doraville through all the transition. So that's a great deal about our story is just the transition from an all white suburbia community to this international hub, and
Yeah.
now with the studios going in exactly where General Motors was, it will just be interesting to see what happens to this town.
I
Is
think
that another
Doraville is about to explode, really. I think there's going to
exactly?
be a lot of growth. I mean, it's in the perfect location. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I think Doraville's in a great location. I mean, Dunwoody, I keep mixing up these names. I think Dunwoody's in a great location, but Doraville is actually even closer to Peachtree Industrial and 285. And I mean, it really is like, it seems like everything's moving down Chambly. And I think Doraville is just going to, I mean, especially with assembly, it's really going to be cool in the next few
Mhm.
years.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I grew up in Lawrenceville, and you're right. Like what I knew of Doraville was the GM plant and Buford Highway. And I run a restaurant review group on Facebook, and everybody like probably half the conversation is about the Buford Highway
Yes.
stretch there, and how if you want like authentic food, like that's where you go.
Yes.
And I think it's really cool. All right, well, Lisa, what's your job here?
Oh gosh, I think I'm just here to kind of make trouble, but in the meantime, I'm gonna try and write our story. I mean, we have so much to say about Doraville, and there's so many stories that it's hard to kind of capture it all into one movie. But our hope is that we'll be able to raise enough money to you know record a longer movie
Yeah.
than we originally intended. But yeah, so I'm going to try and capture as many stories as I can in the most eloquent way possible, and hopefully move a couple people in the process. But that's my story here.
Nice. Karen, how about you?
Yeah. Well, so I think most people would consider have the boring part of the job, right? Because I am kind of the providing the structure. We've got a
You're the
core team of
necessary person, though.
I know, I know. And I love it. So it's great for me, right? It's a fun second job, is what it's become. But we've got a core team of 6 people that meet regularly and plan things out. And then we've got a host of other people who are out there doing other things for us. We've got 2 of our good friends that are literally going door to door at local businesses just to try to raise awareness of the film and ask for sponsorship. And that's something I could never in a million years do, right?
Yeah.
So I'm handling all of the, like our we've got an LLC set up for it, the bank account now. We're connected to a fiscal sponsor whose whole mission is to help filmmakers.
Okay.
So they were
Who's that
perfect for us.
sponsor?
It's
No,
called From the Heart Productions. Yeah.
okay.
And they're fantastic. They connect with us. I get emails all the time of different fundraising ideas, and they'll help us brainstorm in that area. They are our nonprofit arm,
Okay.
right? So for our large donors, the donations are, tax deductible going through them. So they've been really great to work with. We've connected with a producer, actually. That was one of Lisa's connections that she made, that's done some things on Netflix. And
Mm.
she's really guiding us because we really haven't, nobody's created a documentary before. This is not what we do.
Yeah.
So it's all new territory, but it's really been a lot of fun. We're super excited about it.
Nice. And so,
I wanted to mention, Matthew, another awesome thing that we have is our chief of police of Doraville graduated in class of '88, Chuck Atkinson. So we have
okay.
this phenomenal liaison to the city who's been a part of it from the beginning, where we grew up, playing sports with him and his family. And then he's been through the entire transition and working with the community today. So we feel very blessed that we have Chuck, who we call Chucky.
Okay. Well, tell me about Chuck Singleton and the 5K.
Oh, wow.
Well, now I'll start crying.
Yeah.
So when I get too choked up, Karen can chime in because she
Just
knows
hand it
it
off.
well.
She went there.
Sorry. Okay. Mr. Singleton was our PE teacher in elementary school. Lord, I'm coming. And he's the reason I became a PE teacher. An African American man that was very integral part of the civil rights. He was his student council president in his college. When Martin Luther was shot, he encouraged his school to stay in school and not do a walkout. And he's in the history books for that. He said that's not what Martin Luther would want.
Right.
That's who he is. Very one of the most upbeat, motivational people ever. And he received a Purple Heart in the Vietnam War. And just after he got out of the Vietnam War, he came to teach at our all-white school. So he was the first African American in our school at Northwoods Elementary School. Just had so many programs that he had us do. A newsletter, a morning announcement where he'd sing this "Go you chicken fat, go away." I mean, he would have us so fired up in this simple school, you know.
Yeah.
And so he suddenly died, and I found out months later. And so that's why I'm still emotional, because it was the last. You would think he would live to 150.
Yeah.
He was in his 70s. And so we wanted to name our race after him, in honor of him, to help with our grieving of losing him. He will have passed a year in October, or actually it'll be 2 years in October. And anyway, so he went on to other school. He was been teacher of the year many years. He's written books. I mean, just does motivational speaking. Just a phenomenal human being.
Yeah. And so the 5K is going to raise money to make the movie, I'm assuming?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay. And so the 5K is June 29th, and it's at the Doraville Assembly, which I'm super excited about, you know, bringing people there. Because I feel like people still don't really know exactly about Assembly. And there's like a whole area on the outside. I guess that's where everybody's going to be congregating.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like right next to MARTA. It's a great place to start a race because people can easily get there.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the race.
So the race will start. There's a park that's in the assembly, just inside the studios, or just outside the studios.
Yeah.
And the park sits right in front of the building facades for movie, productions.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the Doraville. It's the Doraville City Park, so we get to use it freely. And there's going to be that we're partnering with the city, and they're having a movie night there in the middle of the park, in the grass part, and they'll have jumpy houses for kids. They're going to have a little fireworks show. And that's going to all start at 9, but our event will start closer to 6. And we start at the park at the 5K, and 6 o'clock at night. We're going to have vendors selling things, and we'll have a Made in Doraville tent and an alumni tent, so that those that went to Sequoia or from Doraville originally can go to there in case they want to, so they can definitely see somebody that they've known if we have a crowd that it's hard to find people. So we're going to start that race right there and end it there. And it's going to take us in front of the facades, through a little bit of old Doraville by the train tracks, down an old street in Doraville, and back behind the studios and back through the facades. And so it will give us a route throughout the studio area, behind it, and back into the park and in there.
Okay. It does. It like hypes the movie because you're actually going through the old parts of the old Doraville and the new Doraville.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I think you're going to get a lot of people there just to I think that when people show up, they're going to realize, oh, wait, what is this? Like, I mean, I was taking pictures like crazy when I was there, and it is. So that's where they film, like across from the park is where they film movies. And like when you pull into that area, it's assumed that you might end up on a movie because that's where they're going to be filming. Even when people are around, the park is just gorgeous. So I think it's a great place to start for sure.
Yeah, and a really cool story about the park is, or the assembly is those letters that are used were sold when General Motors closed, and a lady that's really been wonderful helping me that is kind of a connected with the assembly. She had to find them, and they were in Pennsylvania, and she was responsible for bringing them back so that they could reword it as the assembly. So those are
That's
our
cool.
old General Motors letters.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It
So
used to be called
when we were,
Doraville Assembly Plant, right?
yeah.
Pardon?
It used to be called Doraville Assembly Plant
Mm-hmm.
back when it was GM. So yeah, it's the same exact letters now being used for the production studios.
Mhm.
Yeah, and while we were touring, it seemed like they really wanted to keep a lot of the stuff from the old GM plant. Like they really
Yes.
wanted to carry on that tradition and stick with the city where they could have just done their
Yes.
own thing, but
Yeah.
they really
Third Rail Studios, for
Yeah.
example, right where the trains are.
yeah. Well, very cool, very cool. Okay, yeah. So the evening, I like that you're doing it in the evening too, because back in the days when I did run, it seemed like everything was first thing in the morning, and that is a good hype train up into the to the party. You've got the 5K running into, and you said at the beginning before we started recording this, it's more 4th of July oriented. It's kind of the party, the Doraville party for the 4th of July too.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and there's going to be food trucks, and like Caroline was saying, a bounce house, and we're going to have vendors there with tents selling things. So there'll be lots to do. So it's not just a 5K. And then, obviously for the Doraville movie on the lawn, this is part of that series for the city of Doraville. So it's just, it was
That's
a good
probably
partnership.
to kick it off, right? Is that going to be the first one? Yeah, there's that big amphitheater there, and then there's the tower. Oh man, I forgot what they called the tower. I
Yes.
should have gone back. Have they finished that now, or will it be finished by then?
It practically is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was like one
Yeah.
panel that needed to be added to the top last time.
Right.
Really? That
It's
thing's
enormous.
massive.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
very cool. I think it's the biggest LED screen, I want to say in the United States, but it might have been the world. Should have done my research before we started again. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Is there anything else you want to mention before we go?
I think that, people who want to run the 5K, we have a website, madeindoraville.com.
Okay.
They can go out there and learn everything about the movie and the 5K and so on. But we are just extremely excited about the opportunity to partner with the city of Doraville and looking forward to, connecting with some old friends that we haven't seen in a while. And then some people run. But it's a running thing too. But
It's more about the party, I feel.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. For me, at least, I know I'll be sitting that one out. But so I think it'll be a really fun event. I'm looking forward to it.
And the 5K is very much a walk too. That we understand a lot of people that will do it have never really ran before. They're just doing it for the nostalgia. And also, if anybody wants to go to that website and let us know if they would like to be a vendor.
Okay.
We're selling those or renting those for space for $175 if they have anything they would like to market for that.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, if there's any vendors listening, this is a good time to get into assembly. Like this is a big deal. Like that area is going to be a big deal for Doraville, and a lot of people don't know about it yet. So you're going to be raising awareness for that as well, as well as Chuck Singleton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. It's nice to before the show, we talked a little bit about Doraville, and I think that Doraville is really going to take off the next few years. And so I live so close to it. I'm excited about this film. I'm excited about I'll definitely be part of the 5K. And, but yeah, I might not run the entire thing. I'll definitely show up and support
Thank
it.
you.
So
I'll save you a
Awesome.
nice. Well, it was real nice meeting y'all, and good luck with the planning.
Thank you so
you
much, Matthew.
so
Take
much.
care.